lovely good morning and welcome to the Camnet Breakfast Show. I'm Patrick Soko and today I'm riding solo. I will be with you up to an hour over 9. Together we'll be discussing various issues pertaining to current affairs, and as you already know, the Monday edition and Tuesday editions of the Camnet Breakfast Show is dedicated to community. And talking about community, I have a topic of discussion which I want you, our dear viewers, to help me discuss, which is what should be the long-lasting solution to the problem of drainages in communities. I understand it is the rainy season and most areas are flooded or affected every time it rains. So I'm getting your feedback regarding what you want to be done, especially in your community. We understand that at the moment we have the Constituency Development Fund, CDF, which can be utilized to ensure that we foster that development in terms of drainage construction. However, drainage construction is not a new phenomenon in Zambia, in that we have been through this route for a long time. Money, especially pertaining to CDF, even before the money was increased from 1.6 to 25.7, and for 2023 28.3 million kwacha, we still had a focus on drainage. But however, drainages in most communities, if you go there, they are most choked, and in that people throw rubbish and plastics, so it tends to be a problem, especially during the rainy season. So I'm getting your views. Is it the issue of mindset change? And also, what about when it comes to the drainages themselves? What sort of drainages are we supposed to construct to ensure that they last us for a longer period of time? It's not just in communities. For instance, if it is in Lusaka, you go in the central business district of Lusaka, near at the Rima Tower area there, it usually floods, and this is on account of poor drainage system. So I'm getting your views, our dear viewers, on this subject, so that we can get to find solutions and probably advise our leaders. You know, you may be having that solution, yet nobody is taking it. So we are trying to create that platform so that we can share that knowledge on how we can put this matter to rest, given that we now have money under CDF and we can spend on that very venture. So right now I'm going to go straight into our first segment, which we call the morning boost, so that we can get exercising. We'll be back on the other side before we get to go to the health corner. So let's start with our first segment so that we can get flexing our muscles. Keep it on Camnet.
Hello, my name is Arson, aka the Fitness Puppy. We are here at Chonzi Fitness Gym in conjunction with the Camnet TV, and today we are going to do abs. We are going to do sit-ups. Get ready, we go. 3, 2, 1, let's go. Going 40 seconds. Thirty seconds. Let's go. 20 seconds. 15 seconds. 10 seconds, let's go. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, and cut. Okay, so next one, just stand straight. Let's go. Elbow to knee. 3, 2, 1. Let's go. Both sides. 40 seconds. Let's go. 30 seconds. Keep going. 20 seconds. 15 seconds. Let's go. 10 seconds. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, and quit. Okay. Next one. We're doing a toe touch. This is probably the last exercise. 3, 2, 1. Let's go. Going. 40 seconds. 30 seconds. Come on. Let's go. 20 seconds. 15 seconds. Let's go. 10 seconds. Come on. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, and quit. Okay. Lastly, we are going to stretch. Okay. We're starting with the cobra stretch. Let's go for a minute. Let's go. 3, 2, 1, and we go. Let's go. This is what we call cobra stretch. It's a type of stretch that will stretch almost every part of your body parts. Let's go. Stretch the lower back, shoulders, legs, including glutes. Let's go. We have 30 seconds. Let's go. 20 seconds. 10 seconds. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, and quit. Okay, you've been with me, Harrison, aka the Fitness Puppy. Until next time, bye bye.
Well, there you have it, the Fitness Puppy. They are giving us that drill, very important early in the morning to keep fit. And the Morning Boost is a segment where you get to exercise with us on Camnet TV. That segment also is up for sponsorship. You can equally press your advert, and other segments in the Camnet Breakfast Show. Come 2023, the Camnet Breakfast Show will be going big, and we can grow together with you, and you, especially you, in terms of business. So let's also now get into our next segment, where we get to take matters of our health seriously, and this is the Health Corner, and we get to listen to what the doctor has prepared for us regarding health tips.
Hi, good morning. Welcome to today's segment on the Health Corner on Camnet Breakfast Show. Today, we are going to talk about cholera. My name is Dr. Nakubiana Mfaya. So like I have said, this week, we're going to be talking about cholera. We're going to discuss what cholera is, how one can get cholera, and we'll also discuss the symptoms, the signs and symptoms of cholera, and also how it is treated and how you can prevent cholera in our homes and in our communities. So today I want to discuss what is cholera. So cholera is an acute diarrheal disease that is caused by a bacteria called Vibrio cholerae. What does that mean? It means that it's a disease that causes one to have diarrhea. It causes diarrhea in a person who has been infected by the bacteria. So it is caused by a bacteria. A bacteria is a germ that one gets to ingest, and it enters into the system and goes into the intestines. So once it gets into the intestines, it causes loss of water from the body. So you have severe diarrhea, and that can lead to someone having dehydration and even death if it's not treated. The WHO estimates that about 1.3 million to 4 million people get cholera every year. And of those people, 21,000 to about 143,000 people die from cholera every year. So this disease is of great concern in so many countries, and Zambia is no exception. We have had a number of cases in the past. We had an epidemic in 2017 to 2018 that claimed so many lives. And just this year, early in April, we also had some cases being reported in parts of Zambia. So it's important that we know what cholera is and how we can prevent ourselves from getting cholera. Now, like I have said, cholera is an acute diarrheal disease. So cholera is a very common disease, and there's usually outbreaks in many parts of Zambia, especially during the rain season. Like we are already in the rain season right now. It's important that we protect ourselves and put measures to prevent ourselves from getting cholera, because it can claim so many lives and it kills very fast. So we need to understand how we can prevent it and how we can treat it if one is found to have cholera. So this week, this is what we're going to be discussing. We'll discuss the symptoms tomorrow. So be sure to tune in to tomorrow's program as well, so that you can be able to learn more about the symptoms of cholera. And even in the subsequent days, stay tuned to Camnet TV and learn how you can prevent cholera. Thank you so much for watching.
Thank you so much for staying with us. You are still watching the Camnet Breakfast Show with me, Patrick Soko, and we were on the segment we call the Health Corner, just to get updated on various health issues. And now, talking about health, the topic of discussion for this week is quite interesting. The doctor is talking about cholera, and it is quite an interesting subject in that cholera tends to affect countries, especially during the rain season. Zambia is no exception, because during the rainy season we had a lot of cases of cholera in the past. However, recently there has been a lot of measures that have been undertaken by the Zambian government with the support of the World Health Organization to ensure that they mitigate cholera. However, this has been a program through the vaccination, and we saw it being rolled out in the country to ensure that a certain number of the population is vaccinated against cholera. And if you want to prevent yourself from cholera, you have to make sure that hygiene is prioritized at household level to ensure that you do not drink dirty water. You do not you cover your food. You need to make sure that you take proactive measures to avoid cholera, because any contamination with germs that are carrying that virus, then you may be affected. So you have to keep health for this, especially let's say from January up to some time in May, March. You have to make sure that you keep health and know that we are, even this time around in December, we have the rainy season that is with us, and this is where cholera usually thrives. And we saw it probably, you could also recall and remember in the year 2018 when it came for us, and it was quite devastating in that cholera is also a disease that tends to gobble a lot of resources from the national coffers, because responding to it is not easy. So it tends to affect various economic aspects as well. So health is important, that we always keep health, because if we do not keep health, we tend to finance the consequences of poor health. So let's be proactive as a country. You at personal level can take that proactive approach at household level to ensure that you safeguard your family from cholera. So we'll be discussing this topic throughout this week, and make sure you always keep it on Camnet TV as we get to bring you various issues pertaining to health on the Health Corner. Equally, that segment is up for sponsorship for the year 2023, so we can get talking business on the other side, and you can equally get to call us on the numbers that are there in case you want to be part of the Camnet Breakfast Show and also associate with with our programming. We can get interacting beyond the program. So now let's also get to understand how the kwacha is failing against other major convertible currencies. As we understand, it has been on an upward trajectory or depreciation. So let's get to see this week how is it. So this is how it is. The kwacha, one kwacha, the kwacha is buying at 17 kwacha 75 ngwe against the US dollar, and selling at 18 kwacha 10 ngwe. As you can see, it's on an upward trajectory. The Great British Pound is buying at 21 kwacha 35 ngwe and selling at 21 kwacha 77 ngwe, and the euro is buying at 18 kwacha 82 ngwe and selling at 19 kwacha 19 ngwe. The South African rand is buying at 1 kwacha 04 ngwe and selling at 1 kwacha 06 ngwe. So those are your money market and financial institution that we monitor, and the dates are there when it has been it was updated. That's at 7:05. So you can see how the kwacha is faring, but it does vary from one financial institution to the other. So depending, but the differences are usually not much. They're just marginal differences. However, that's how the kwacha is performing, in case you are not aware, so you know how much you'll be getting if you're changing that money. So that shows that our kwacha has been on a depreciation side, and according to various economists that we have spoken to, have been of the view that the kwacha depreciation is also on account that the country has been purchasing fertilizer, and that's spending on imports. So as a result, that has affected our currency. At the time when we were not engaged in more imports, the kwacha was a bit stable. But now that we are in the importing inputs such as fertilizer, and it has actually depreciated. But also it is also on account that our trade portfolio is not that enhanced as a country, as we always depend on copper as our major foreign exchange earner. And we are still seeing that there has been a quite sluggish growth, especially in the mining sector, considering that the issue of KCM has not been dealt with, and KCM is not operating as it should to be able to contribute towards maximizing the country's export in terms of copper and other minerals. So we are also looking at Mopani copper mine. There has been concern that government has not financed Mopani to operate at its optimum level, but there's been dilly-dallying, and that has tended to affect growth, especially in the mining sector, which is at the moment the backbone of the Zambian economy, considering that it makes up the larger part of Zambia's export earnings. So now, talking about non-traditional exports, Zambia is not doing that much in terms of non-traditional export. It has been trying of recent years, but the portfolio is not sufficient enough to help us stabilize the country, the currency, and that's why we are seeing that the kwacha is a little bit volatile. The central bank has been putting in place measures together with the Ministry of Finance. They have been trying to implement or observe what they call fiscal discipline, in that the government must only spend what it has and not spend more than necessary to avoid weakening the currency. And that has been observed in terms of fiscal discipline to help stabilize the economy. However, the Zambia Institute for Policy Research, ZIPA, has been of the view that the sluggish growth that is being witnessed currently in the country is not sustainable, and that it must be, the central bank has to further intervene to ensure that it addresses that, because at the moment, positively, we understand that Zambia is growing to about 2%, going towards 3% in terms of gross domestic product, GDP, from the negative growth previously. However, to sustain this growth, the government has to continue putting in place measures that are going to keep the currency afloat. So now, that is all we had on the money market. I hope you understand. But however, we're only remaining with about 4 to 3 to 5 days to 6 days for us to know how much the pump price will be adjusted in terms of the figures. Because if the kwacha is misbehaving, it means the Energy Regulation Board, ERB, will have no option but to revise upwards the price of fuel, and that has its own consequences to the consumers, who are just going to bear it, because there's no escaping when it comes to that. So the cost of living is something that Zambians have been complaining about, and if we continue on an upward trajectory in terms of the fuel price, it means that this cry will continue for a long time. So let's get interacting with us, our dear viewers. You can send us that text message. You can do the same on our social media platform on Facebook by engaging the number that is on your screen and dialing to get to share your perspective on the issues we are discussing. Remember, the topic of discussion is what is the long-lasting solution to the issue of drainages in communities. I want to get your perspective on this important subject, which affects almost each and every community. And on the Camnet Breakfast Community Edition of the Breakfast Show, that is our topic of discussion. And for now, we are going to start zooming in some of the stories that we are making the headlines on Christmas Day. So now, let's look at the story where the High Ridge residential area in Kawe has seen an upswing in the house of breakings and theft of ZESCO service cables, in which unknown criminals have stolen over 10 service cables on separate homes in a day. And residents have attributed the increase in the crime rate to the lack of police presence in the area and the high cost of living in the country. Meanwhile, Central Province Commanding Officer David Chireshe has appealed to the public to report suspected criminal activities to the Zambia police. So let's get to zoom in that story. We'll be back on the other side.
There are so many thieves in this area. Where they're coming from, we are not very much sure. When they come, even during the day, they come, they steal anything that they just find outside there.
So ikebo njikete ibabikire pasande lelo bushiku kuma 24 hours bachiba nomachire mpapisha coffee pakuiba amalight yareya.
It's not only the cutting of the cables, the grill doors, anything, the shoes, anything, clothes, they are stealing.
However, it is our earnest appeal to our members of the public, members of the communities, that these installations belong to them. If somebody steals a cable, it's your house that will not have power. Please report them as quickly as you can to either ZESCO or the police or any utility company that may be concerned.
There you have it. Quite an interesting story. And it is now in Kawe. I think I remember here in Lusaka, in Mutendele of Monali constituency, it was also a common feature where service cables were being stolen by criminals. And it is now in Kawe. And we need to understand what they use the cables for, because it can't be consequences. They should have a red market somewhere where they are selling. And it's quite a devastating aspect, considering that ZESCO does delay to just give you that cable, and the thieves happen to steal it. It's quite retrogressive and a drawback. And an interesting part is that one of the speakers there says when they are cutting the cable, electricity, there is usually no electricity. So I think the suspicions there, I think your guess would be as good as mine. But for now, we can only speculate until the police bring the culprits to book. And in case you also want to contribute to that story, you can do the same by calling us on the number that is on your screen, and also get to comment on other stories that will be zooming in, as well as the topic of discussion. You can do so. So now, I also want to zoom in an interesting story now. As you already know that yesterday was Christmas Day, and quite an interesting day. I know most of the people may be nursing their hangovers, but let's get to share also, how did you celebrate your Christmas, and are we celebrating Christmas the right way? I understand Elias was telling me that Christmas was about eating chicken, and you too can give me your own vision of how Christmas is celebrated, and how you managed to celebrate your Christmas. As for me, I was working, and I didn't manage to make any plans for Christmas. I don't know if your schedule was as tight as mine. You can equally give me a call and share with us how you celebrated your Christmas, and also get to engage on the topic of discussions that we are having. And talking about Christmas, we had quite an interesting stories, in that we had stories pertaining to Christmas babies, as usual. Usually those who are born on Christmas, those who are born on 1st January, they are usually lucky, and that they are even given hampers. But for those who are born on Christmas, as of yesterday, 25th December 2022, we look at a story where local government and rural development minister Garin Kombo says the government is doing everything possible to address health infrastructure deficit, and in the wake of the growing population. And Mr. Nkombo made the remarks when he handed over Christmas hampers that were donated by the First Lady, Mutinta Ijirema, to babies at Chipata Level 1 Hospital in Lusaka. So we get to play that story, and we'll play them back to back with another Christmas story where Mumbwa Town Council Chairperson Charlie Masumo has challenged mothers across the country to be taking their sick babies to recommended health facilities for medical attention as opposed to traditional doctors. So let's get to play these two stories. We'll be back on the other side.
The reason for the season is love, peace, and joy, and sharing to reflect on the birth of Jesus Christ, although others choose to misinterpret the holiday by indulging in illicit activities. As per tradition, in Zambia, Christmas babies receive gifts from well-wishers, and in Lusaka, local government and rural development minister Gary Nkombo led various stakeholders in donating assorted items to Christmas babies at Chipata First Level Hospital on behalf of the First Lady Mutindai Chilema. By 10:30 hours, the facility had 13 Christmas babies, who include 9 boys and 4 girls.
So I want to maybe start by thanking the First Lady for the kind hearts that she has demonstrated. I'm informed that this is not the only area that she has reached out today. I'm told there are several others, so I have been assigned to come and represent her. And Alliance Triumph Foundation, really the kindness that you are showing, Madam, to reach out to people who are in need and who are at times stressed, because the act of giving life can be stressful. Is very commendable, and please continue your work. And as government, we can only say that we need more like you.
Also presenting hampers to Christmas babies alongside the minister was the Triumph Foundation.
Here at Chipata Clinic every Tuesday, where we make sure that everyone has to be given food. That's our main assignment that we do as partners with the government. So we come here like every week to make sure that we feed the sick. And today has been a special day, as we are all celebrating the birth of our Lord Jesus Christ. So we are also witnessing the new born babies that have come. We also brought in some hampers just to present unto them so that we celebrate together.
And the Triumph Foundation founder Olakunda says Christmas is a time of sharing, as she affirmed continued support to the health facility.
The little blessing which God has given me have to be a blessing to that somebody out there who really wants a blessing, so that we have it all. But the little thing, we believe in love, we believe in sowing the seed of love. So today, as we are celebrating the birth of our Lord Jesus Christ, we said we should celebrate it in a different style. We gave out hampers to the babies, and I think that's an achievement for Triumph Foundation. I can say God has been faithful in the year 2022, and as we have already made a theme for 2023 to say, it's a God of a second chance. He has given us a second chance.
They have been our all-weather friend. They provide meals every Tuesday for all inpatients, that is IPD, as well as post-operative and labor ward. And then in all the events, they've always come out. And today we are very happy because they've come to celebrate Christmas with us. They've come and they've brought hampers for their Christmas babies. And I think this is a very good gesture. We are very grateful.
Meanwhile, Chipata First Level Hospital Medical Superintendent Mata expressed gratitude for the gesture, further stating that the hospital has a high delivery rate of 700 babies monthly.
We deliver on average between 25 to 30 babies every day at this facility, giving us a monthly average of 700 babies every month. So we are happy to deliver these babies. We want mothers to deliver in health facilities, and we're happy to take care of them, and we're very privileged for the support that you have rendered to us on this Christmas Day.
Patrick Soko, Camnet News.
Mumbo Town Council Charlie Masumo has donated Christmas hampers to newly born babies at Mumbo District Hospital and says his gesture is a reflection of the birth of Jesus.
Here at the Mumbo District Hospital, where we are donating hampers to the newly born babies, the babies who are born at Christmas. So far, we have 8 that we have received. We have 4 boys and 4 girls. After I advise the mothers that they should look after them carefully. They should be taking them to under 5 clinic. We believe that these are our future leaders. They should be taken care of. And I believe that actually, even next year, we will come and do the same. This is actually the program that we are showing a spirit of love to the mothers, to the babies that have been born on Christmas Day.
Witnessing the donation on behalf of the hospital management, is Mumbo District Health Director Dr. Clementina Piri, who has a word of encouragement to the mothers.
They should make sure that they take their children for under 5. They make sure that whenever their children are not well, they rush with them to the hospitals. They avoid going to witch doctors, and they make sure that their health is something that they are taking as a priority. So we are really grateful because his words are going to go a long way in improving the health-seeking behavior of our people. And as a management, we know that this is just one of the signs of how good we are working together with the council. And we pray that this continues. So far we have 8 that are there. We have 4 boys and 4 girls, though within a short time we have those that are in advanced labor. Within maybe an hour or so we might have 4 more that will be born.
And mothers have praised the council chairperson for the gesture and have since assured him to take care of their babies till they grow up to become responsible citizens in their communities.
Ziko kulia wabanipaza gift ya birthday ya mwana Christmas Mulungu amdarise na pasa kwa ule ndio watu pamoja wa Christmas
Matthias Chewe, Camnet News, Mambua.
There you have it. Those are the stories that we covered on a Christmas day, where we were receiving some new Christmas babies. Quite interesting there. And we hope that you did celebrate Christmas responsibly, and you can share with us how you managed to celebrate that very important day. How do you interpret Christmas is another important question that I'm asking you, because sometimes I saw quite a lot of excitement, especially among young people, and unnecessarily, I think as parents and guardians, we need to always remind our children that we need to take them closer to the Lord, especially when it is during times like that of Christmas. And talking about Christmas, it is a time of giving, sharing, and as well as spending time with the family, to just get to bond, to just get to exhibit, demonstrate love. And it's not a time to choke yourself with alcohol. It's not a time to engage in fights. It's not a time to be moving aimlessly like the devil. And however, we saw other people, especially moving aimlessly, others engaging in fights, others engaging in alcohol abuse. But that's not the reason for the season. The reason for the season is love, peace, and joy. And you too, our dear viewers, in case you want to share your perspective on how you also had your Christmas, you can equally call, and then we get interacting and discussing here on Camnet TV. Also, zooming that story was in Mumbwa, where the babies also were lucky. I know this event was being held across the country, because we understand that the First Lady did donate to various, to almost every health center, to ensure that the Christmas babies have something to receive. And it was we could only cover a few, and we managed to pick a few who had invited us. And even the president himself, he was in Choma, where he was also handing over hampers to the Christmas babies. And let's also get to the other stories that were making the headlines. And that's a story where Kawe Central lawmaker Mrs. Chrysosta Piri has urged the church and its congregants in Kawe Central constituency to seize opportunity which government has created, to seize the opportunities which the government has created. Speaking when she attended the church service at the Katondo Seventh-day Main SDA Church, the lawmaker told the congregants that with various projects to apply for Constituency Development Fund CDF. And speaking after the church service, Deacon Bernard Chomba thanked the New Dawn administration and the Republican President Hakainde Hichilema for showing resilience in fostering unity and development in the country. So let's get to zoom in that story, and we'll be back on the other side. We'll zoom it alongside the story coming from the Human Rights Commission, which has described the placement of the death penalty with life imprisonment as a landmark development towards enhancing the fundamental right to life.
Please, mwonereko batina mubika kwa amano pali shimpia wa government chubamuletera kwali bako empowerment kwali ama community project mwali kwa tamakani mwewo MP kwa tamaka ya kumupingula imwe kwa watifo mwalashi bonfiendalanga imwe nga mwalemba kunona ba WDC benu mwaisa kumwaleta fipepa ku office kumyesu twalakonka cyo mufwaya mwebeni
tuli avansa sana ngashi pantungulushi ifyo shabe shasakamana especially pakupepa no kwafwa kuletitika abalanda ero na fimbi ifyo kuteko bule patukutila binesa seshingi sana pantunga kuliteko bule sakamana abantu ubuna bwena epobuli kaitwa mnafe pakashitaka no kubomba kwa afyo kuteko bule kwa tukubomba nefe ba MP bali abaswangana kwendo kunoku kwesho koseresha abantu no kweshefe abantu balingira okupalamina kubuteko kana butuka buteko.
The Commission also wishes to commend the President for repealing the criminal defamation of the President offense, which has been undermining freedom of expression and media freedoms for many years. The fact that the President has amended this law at a time when there are isolated but incessant cases of abuse of freedom of expression against the President demonstrates that the President has put national interest above self-interest. That too must be commendable. But we also call upon rights holders, various interest groups to ensure that we refrain from deliberately abusing freedom of expression, but we should enjoy that right in accordance with the provisions of the Constitution and other human rights instruments that provides that freedom of expression, which is not absolute in nature. It has exceptions under which it can be legitimately be limited.
There you have it. Those are quite interesting stories there. Now the church are being urged to take advantage over the opportunities that rise in the Constituency Development Fund, CDF, and ensure that they benefit. It's quite an interesting aspect on the CDF that everyone else can benefit, but not everyone else can benefit. So I think even as we also tell people to go towards the CDF, we should also be also telling the people the truth that not everyone can benefit, because, for instance, in the entire constituency of Lusaka Central, I don't think you could have everyone, like, let's say 10,000 people benefiting from CDF programs. Well, so I think that's another story that we need to be discussing, but because everyone else has been told to take advantage of opportunities. Now, what happens if the entire constituency wants to take advantage of opportunities? What remains? So I think it is also vital that we also leverage on the other opportunities that come with the CDF, in that we should just make sure that we create an environment where we develop platforms that can benefit everyone. In that, for instance, we put up skills centers where people can acquire the skills to learn in carpentry, tailoring, entrepreneurship, so that they can be able to stand on their own, even without being given the CDF empowerment fund. They should be able to stand, but if these structures that are supposed to provide this training are not existing at communities or constituency level, it is difficult for us as a country to actually foster meaningful and sustainable development. So we need to ensure that also, while we are looking at empowering people with these funds, we also look at projects that can benefit the majority or the main people in the constituency. We need to also not forget children, because children are equally important in that children need to be given their rights. They need to be given space to talk to development. And talking about children, we understand that most of the time now at the moment we talk about issues pertaining to junkies. It is because in communities there are no systems that are functioning to help safeguard the plight of children, and we tend to see that there are no play parks for children. how do you expect children to get engaged in meaningful activities? So that tends to be problematic. Talking about CDF, so we need to ensure that we also put up play parks where children can be playing to be able to enjoy their childhood. If we don't put up these important facilities, then it becomes problematic in safeguarding the plight of children, because they tend to engage in all sorts of activities, and including illicit behavior, where we have seen children playing cards, smoking. And if we do not take a proactive approach in creating a conducive environment as a country, our children will be lost. And we'll be talking about mitigation of crime, but they say prevention is better than cure. Hence, it is important that we take a proactive approach and safeguard the interest of children by making sure that they grow up well into responsible adults. And we can only do that if we safeguard their childhood. At the moment, under CDF, people hardly talk about the children, and how can we make sure that children really, really benefit from CDF. It's about putting up these facilities at community level. But however, in the past we've also seen that places that were designated play parks are now being given out for shopping malls, and children at the end of the day have nowhere to play from. So they tend to mostly frequent the dump site to sell these plastics to earn 1 or 2 coins, and at the end of the day just buy cigarettes, buy drugs, which is something that we need to be aware of as a society, because it will negatively affect us in the long run. So let's be proactive when we talk about the Constituency Development Fund. And the other story that we also zoomed in is the story pertaining to the removal of the death penalty in the penal code, as well as the law on defamation of the president of Zambia, where President Hakainde Hichilema has demonstrated to be bold enough and be able to endure the insults that can be thrown at him at will by these opponents. I understand that the defamation law has been used by law enforcement wings to arrest people who insult the president. This law, many people are casualties of this law, not only in this administration, but as well as previous administrations. And most people have been found themselves wanting for getting involved, for getting to talk bad about the president. This has been said to be a retrogressive law by human rights defenders, and the president has been bold enough and removed it from the statutes. But although others are arguing that it is not completely out, because Zambia has quite a number of laws where this same death penalty is sitting, and also the defamation law is sitting. On the death penalty, it is part of the part 3 of the Constitution, and it is in order for us to repeal it, we need to ensure that we do away with that part in the Constitution. But dealing with that part of the Constitution requires a national referendum. But is this government willing to put up a national referendum? That is another question that we should be asking ourselves as a people. But however, we have seen in the past that we have the cooperating partners who had come on board to just support, help Zambia finance its processes, including the elections. We have had goodwill from the European Union, the United Nations, and other international partners Zambia has. And they have been able to come on board to the aid of Zambia and be able to bail it out and facilitate processes such as the elections. Last time we had the Bill of Rights alongside the general election, it was not a good outcome. And the Bill of Rights, Zambia lost the chance to have a new and advanced Bill of Rights, where people were going to have the right to compel government to act. If it does not do so, they had the right to go to court and make sure that the government does implement what it has subscribed to. Because we understand that Zambia has signed so many protocols, but those protocols are hardly followed, and that tends to be bad for the country. Let's see, for instance, the Sustainable Development Goals among the progressive goals is that Zambia is committed to end poverty, to reduce poverty, end hunger, as well as ensure good health, as well as ensure inclusive access to education for all. But if the government does not achieve this, it does not achieve it, and no one can take any sort of action. But if we had the Bill of Rights, citizens were going to be compelled to be able to take legal action against the government and be able to seek justice. So that's a progressive document that Zambia did not enact. And in order to repeal the current one, the government has to go for a referendum. Though President Hichilema has made a first step to remove the death penalty in the penal code, others, this is also against the backdrop that others have been of the view that removing the death penalty was not a good idea, considering that people may be engaging in crime knowing that there will be no death sentence. However, that is another subject for another day. You too can have your perspective on that. And also, as I get to wind up on the zooming the headlines there, we have a story where the National Restoration Party has backed the decision by the Director of Public Prosecutions, Gilbert Piri, to revoke the immunity granted to former Konkola Copper Mine KCM Provisional Liquidator Milingo Lungu. And the NAREP Deputy Secretary General Martin Mulenga says KCM was mad in alleged corruption at the time when the liquidator took over. Mr. Mulenga says the decision to strip Mr. Lungu the immunity will enable him to defend his action as a provisional liquidator. He notes that Mr. Lungu needs to exculpate himself through the courts of law. Let's get to zoom in that story. We'll be back on the other side.
People actually were saying that this company was used as a conduit for corruption. So the stripping off the immunity of Milingo Lungu is the right thing that the DPP has done. We now want to see Milingo Lungu account for the actions that he took at the time that he was a liquidator at KCM. And we want every transaction, especially those that could have been suspected to have been given to the Patriotic Fund, be investigated. The Zambian people want to know what the contracts were, how much money was involved in those contracts, and what kind of things did they supply. The Zambian people know that the PF were known for corruption. So we want him to exonerate himself through the courts of law. And we want the report to come out to know who were the big suppliers in the KCM. We know that Zambians have got the right to supply, but we know that under the PF, everything and much of the thing that they were doing was to do with corruption. Corruption was endemic under the Patriotic Front, and KCM was not an exception. So we want Milingo Lungu to account for his deeds at the time that he was appointed liquidator under KCM. And the DPP, for having made the right decision to strip him of his immunity, we commend him because he did the right thing.
Well, there you have it. That was Mr. Martin Mulenga, the National Restoration Party, NAREP Deputy Secretary General there, highlighting his perspective on the case that's involving Milingo Lungu. Well, last week we heard how the new Director of Public Prosecution, Gilbert Piri, did revoke the immunity that was granted to Milingo Lungu by the former Director of Public Prosecution, Lilian Siuni. That was quite a dramatic turn of event, in that story was with us for a long time, for the year 2022, where we saw the back and forth on these issues, where the other time Mr. Lungu was summoned, arrested. The other time we get to head to say they negotiated that for him to leave KCM, he will not be prosecuted. And so these are court cases that are ongoing in the courts of law, and we get to listen to them. And next week, I think we'll be following up on quite a number of court processes. with our court reporter Miriam Kaimba there, and interesting stories that we're going to look out for. For the year 2022, we should be preview that for now we have no major convictions, and especially amongst high-profile people when it comes to the issue pertaining to corruption. However, we also understand that the Zambian judicial system has been also a subject of delayed justice, where some cases do take too long to be disposed of, and that tends to undermine access to justice. But we did have an interview with the Chief Justice Mumba Malila, who did express concern and commitment to ensure that the judicial sector is digitized and ensure that court process are quickened, and to ensure that justice is dispensed in the shortest possible time. That was a direction that the Chief Justice did give, to say the judiciary has to move alongside other arms of government. We have seen the executive, for instance, moving through the armies, and we need to make sure that we do the same for every wing of government to be able to be up to date. And talking about the fourth estate, which is the media, I think the fourth estate has already evolved in terms of ICTs. What is important now is that everything that we do has to be integrated into ICT, because it is cost efficient and effective, and it will help in terms of speedy delivery and fairness, especially in the dispensation of justice in the country. That's quite a good pronouncement that was coming from the judiciary, and looking at that very aspect. So now, and also before I get to give you an update on the fixtures on what will be happening, today is Boxing Day, and there are matches that will be played as of today, the 26th of December 2022. But before I do that, I also have to zoom in some of the stories that are making the headlines. The last story that we have is for the Lumezi Town Council, which has approved and adopted 40.1 million operational budget for the year 2023. And a statement, the Lumezi Town Council Public Relations Officer Ivan Muyumbwa says this has been done in accordance with the Local Government Act number 2 of 2019 and supplemented by the 2023 Ministry of Local Government and Rural Development Budget Preparation Guidelines. So let's get to listen to that story. I'll be back with the fixture for the Boxing Day.
The Lumezi Town Council has approved a 40.1 million kwacha budget for the year 2023, and this particular budget is an increase from 38.2 million kwacha, which was allocated for this year 2022, and it must be noted that this particular increase to 40.1 million kwacha is as a result of the increased constituency development fund, which we all know that was increased to 28.3 million kwacha for each constituency. And from the 40.1 million kwacha budget, the local authority intends to dismantle or set some of the debt that it owes, and of course 500,000 kwacha has been allocated towards offsetting the debt or the arrears that the local authority owes, and this is part payment to liquidate debt owed to institutions or for the statutory obligations, as well as the payment of terminal benefits for some of the employees or former employees. And from the 2023 Constituency Development Fund, we plan as a local authority to allocate 15,331,977 projects, and we also have 3,227,784 allocated for grants for
Well, that is Mr. Ivan Muyumbwa, the Council Public Relations Officer for Lumezi Town. And quite a bad sound there that we had. We would just apologize for that bad sound, windy. Let's get to look at the matches that will be played today on Boxing Day. So for today, these are the matches that we have in the English Premier League. Let's see. We have Brentford versus Tottenham. That's 14:30 p.m. That's for today. Leicester City will be up against Newcastle at 7 p.m. At 5 p.m. rather, and that is today. We have Everton up against Wolves, and Arsenal will be playing against West Ham, and Manchester United, it will be playing tomorrow against Northern Forest. I could not see that. It's a bit small. And let's see, Southampton will be up against Brighton, and Crystal Palace will be up against Fulham. Aston Villa will be up against Liverpool, and Chelsea will be up against Bournemouth, and Leeds United will be playing against Manchester City. Well, quite interesting matches to look out for. The Manchester United one, it will be an interesting one with Northern Forest. It is going to be an interesting one. It is to be tomorrow, and that is on 27th of December 2022. And if you were still thinking about the Qatar World Cup,